Welcome back, value investors. In this video, I'm going to be covering NVIDIA. I'm going to be valuing the company and seeing if it's a good investment. NVIDIA has been the most popular company over the last 14 months. It's racked up the best returns out of the Magnificent Seven for good reason. Their technology is being used by many of the companies that are building out their AI businesses, and they are really benefiting from that. Their technology, from a GPU perspective, is number one in the marketplace, and they're benefiting from that. It's a great company, no doubt about it. And it's certainly been a big catalyst for a lot of investors to make a lot of money. So congratulations to you if you own NVIDIA. And I'm going to look at their valuation to see if it's a good time to buy NVIDIA stock. NVIDIA's been around for a long time, and they started their business by taking care of certain aspects of performance that the normal CPUs were not handling well. Most namely is gaming, graphics that video gamers need on their PCs. NVIDIA really accelerated the graphics, and it made it so that gamers really wanted NVIDIA. Over the years, NVIDIA GPUs were also used to mine Bitcoin. And more recently, their GPUs, they offer high performance for companies that are creating large language models and are training those models so that their AI applications will be very accurate. They like to use NVIDIA GPUs because they're able to do that work faster, and it's a necessity if you want to get to market very quickly. That said, they're really benefiting from a spike in demand, and their financials really show that. They had 265% growth in the last quarter that they reported. If you compare that quarter to the year's previous quarter, which is incredible growth, really incredible. Overall, NVIDIA didn't get to their size by not having great technology, not having brilliant people working there. So, from those aspects, the company is very desirable. So, overall, just one more success story in technology out of NVIDIA. And I'm a real fan of the company and are really impressed with how well they're doing. Let me take a look at the fundamentals for NVIDIA. First, they're a very large cap company, $2.15 trillion in valuation, makes them the third most valuable company on the stock market, behind Microsoft in number one spot, Apple number two spot. Their revenue is 60 billion, which is way lower than Microsoft, Apple, and even Google, as an example. They have high net income. They're very profitable. Their products are in high demand. Earnings per share of 12. They have a forward PE of almost 40. And I think it's deserved because their technology is super hot. I think they're going to continue to grow for a couple of years. The semiconductor industry is cyclical. I don't expect the demand on GPUs to continue to grow for 10 years. I could see it growing for a year to 2 years, and then it really either plateauing or go down. And that's the trick, is investing in a company while they're in this growth mode, and then knowing either when to hold or when to sell. We'll see how these things play out, but it's really impressive how NVIDIA has really gone up in value over the last year. The stock is up 275%. Phenomenal. You pretty much quadrupled your money in NVIDIA in 1 year. So if you're an NVIDIA stockholder, congratulations. A lot of analysts rate the company. It's a buy. But as I look at analysts' valuations, I would say that 75% of the valuations, the company is valued under its current stock price. So that's interesting to see that an $880 stock price is really, really optimistic, ambitious. And that's really pricing in a lot of incredible growth, a lot of incredible profitability. And I think that's going to happen for the next year for sure. But 2 years' time, 4 years' time, will it persist? I don't know. We may see that this stock price really start to drop once the revenues, earnings, profits come back down to earth. I'm going to value NVIDIA by discounting the free cash flows I expect the company is going to produce in the future. I'm also going to value NVIDIA using their earnings per share. Let's start with free cash flows. So their free cash flows were pretty incredible for the year they just closed. They actually have a fiscal year that ends in January, at the end of January. And I took that as a beginning of a run rate plus 25%, which is where I'm expecting the free cash flows to grow in the new fiscal year that begins on February 1st and ends on January 30th of 2025. And that will start, the first bucket of free cash flow. And then each year in the first 4 years, I'm going to grow by 25%, which is a very high growth rate. Their free cash flow over the last 5 years has grown at 59%. The biggest growth being in the past year. Now that's very hard to forecast because it's not like a nice smooth chart. So I'm willing to go to 25, which is very aggressive free cash flow growth for the first 4 years. After that, a good growth rate of 4% to those cash flows. It gives us an expectation of all these free cash flows into the future. I'm going to discount those free cash flows by 8% as a weighted average cost of capital. And I'm going to use a little bit like a 0.5% more than Apple because this is not an established company like an Apple. It doesn't have consistent revenues. This is cyclical. So it's very hard to really expect a semiconductor company to stay, growing for 10 years as an example. And when I discount those free cash flows, I get an intrinsic value of today's value of those cash flows of $1.3 trillion. I'm going to add the cash on the balance sheet and take away debt to get to an equity value of NVIDIA of $1.3 trillion. The market cap of the company is currently $2.1 trillion. So there is a premium on NVIDIA stock of 38% if we look at the free cash flows. Again, I feel like my forecast is optimistic. Growing your free cash flows by 25% for 4 consecutive years, that is awesome. If they can achieve that, that'd be great. But even if they do that, it's still overpriced, is the point I'd make. Their earnings per share look fantastic. I'm going to use a PE of 36, which is very reasonable. They're currently trading slightly above that, but this is their forward earnings per share. And based on that valuation, based on those figures, the valuation of the share price is $752 per share. They're currently trading at $876. So there's about a 14% premium if you look at earnings per share. When I combine the two, putting more weight on the free cash flow method, I get to a 30% premium that investors are paying on NVIDIA based on the valuation that I'm calculating. And therefore, I'm going to use this information as I make my decision whether I want to buy NVIDIA stock or not. So should I buy NVIDIA stock and join the large group of people making tons of money on this stock? Well, let me take a look. I first want to look at the company. Do I want to be a part owner in the company? Do I think the company is great? Do I like their industry? And do I like their management team? On NVIDIA, the answer is yes to all three. I think the company is great. I think their industry is really profitable, obviously. And their management team is brilliant. So I really like the company. Their balance sheet's in really good shape. I look at debt and it has to be less than 3 times EBITDA. And most definitely that's the case for NVIDIA. And I also want a discount on the stock. That's important. I'm a value investor. I like buying stocks when they're unappreciated, discounted. I buy shares and then watch the stock price go up. The answer is no on NVIDIA. They're actually being sold at a pretty substantial premium. So I'm a seller or a holder on NVIDIA, but I'm not a buyer of the stock at this time. It's just priced too high. Paying a reasonable price for a great company is always in my investment book, but paying an unreasonable premium on a great company is likely going to be a recipe for me losing money. And therefore, I'm going to pass on buying NVIDIA stock at this time. I'm going to keep looking at the company as I have over the years. I have to admit, NVIDIA did surprise me. I didn't know they were going to be this great. I didn't know they were going to do this well. And I don't know that anybody was projecting that they were going to grow their revenue 265% if you just look at the most previously closed quarter. That was a giant surprise. What's also going to be interesting to follow is all the AI hype. Is the hype going to last a year, 5 years, 10 years? We'll see. Who's going to be the big winner in AI? Which businesses are really going to make money? All that is to be determined. I don't even know if AI is going to be widely accepted. There's a lot of legal ramifications. I don't know that governments want artificial intelligence to be making decisions for humans. I don't know that people want artificial intelligence to be making decisions for people. So all those things we haven't come close to even talking about and having governments weigh in and determine which things are going to be legal and illegal from an AI perspective. So there's a lot of things to be determined. And that's why I'm careful not to go too far on the deep end, not be on the bleeding edge of technology. Instead, wait until it's clear, who's going to make money on AI and how big is it going to be. I hope you found my video interesting and I appreciate you watching.